A shared reflection. She hides the signs God sends down to her. Skeletons in the closet. He isn't right for her and she knows it. She was a holy woman praying for a man to change, day after day. See, I feel her though. I really do understand. I know that hurt, and I know that pain. I know that prayer, and I know that strain. I know she is losing herself, trying to be perfect, trying to win over his whole heart and love. I know she goes the extra mile, just for her efforts to be brushed under the rug. I know it feels like a curse to her. She sees the same things happening to the women in her family. I know her faithful heart. I know her loyal bones. I know she feels unwanted. I know she craves for love to feel like home. The way she gathers up the pieces of her broken heart become a daily ritual. Her faith's still strong despite it all. You can't help but to wonder why. You can't help but to look at this woman and cry. I know you.
All right, what's up, everybody? Welcome back to Race to the Finish. This is the 4th episode, and we've been on a roll lately. So thank you, everyone who's been tuning in to every single episode, and also to that announcement that I put out yesterday about Race to the Finish and where it's going. We're going to be out in Seattle at the end of August, and so I'm just really excited to see how things really play out with the show. But as for now, we're going to keep things going. And bringing on my friend Angel. You know, we've known each other since a while back, and so, but now she's doing great things. So, Angel, you want to go ahead and introduce yourself?
Yeah, hi guys. My name is Angel. I'm from Lorain, Ohio. I write poetry. I go to Cleveland State University. I'm an education major, and I love children. I love nature. I love poetry. I love animals. Yeah.
So wholesome. Yeah.
Thank you.
So yeah, a big part of the reason why I wanted to bring you onto the show is because you're doing really awesome things, you know, just on your own. You just published your first book. Like,
Yeah.
how many of us can actually say that? You know what I'm saying? Like, you know, I've always wanted to publish a book. I think that's so cool that you were able to do that.
Thank you. Yeah. I published my first poetry book called Sunflower Coffee on June 12th of this year, and I've gotten amazing results. It blew my mind. I didn't even expect it to be as big as it is right now. You know,
Yeah.
I've had so much support, so much love, and man, it's truly such a blessing. It's so incredible.
Yeah, and I could definitely see like the response on social media. I mean, you have so many people sharing your stuff, and like, you know, you're doing you know your own promotions, but even people are just responding really well to it. So like,
yeah, I'm so blessed. I did not expect that at all. So
like, what's the scoop with the name like Sunflower Coffee? Like, what like, you know, I don't know what that is, but where did that come from?
Yeah, the name Sunflower Coffee. I've been wanting to create this book for a while now, for a couple of years, and I don't know. A while back, I just thought the name Sunflower Coffee. I love sunflowers. That's my favorite flower, and I love coffee. It's my favorite thing. I can't go a day without coffee. So why not combine two things I love and make it one? And actually because my poetry book is actually a collection of poetry and short stories. So one of the short stories I have in the book is called Sunflower Coffee. And although I love poetry, I like to create short stories at times. And I just kind of went with it. Try to use my imagination and just make it into something.
Yeah. And so like, how can I put this? So like, what really got the ball moving for you to actually like go out and publish a whole book, you know, like what was it that pushed you to do that?
I've been writing poetry since I was young, since elementary school. Poetry has always been a huge part of my life. But what kind of pushed me to actually create the book was I told myself this year I need to do it. Like something in me just told me like you need to put your work out there. I created a poetry Instagram where I would share my posts, and I got a number of people like asking me to make a book, or when are you going to create a book? And I've been wanting to. It's been a dream of mine, but one day, June 12th, just the date came to me, and I was like, I just got to that's the date. I need to get this book out by June 12th. So I started putting my poetry together, and boom, there it is. From
Wow, that's awesome.
yeah, it just I don't know. It's been a
What would you
dream of mine.
say? What would you say is your favorite piece from like your book or
Mm,
your poetry book?
that's a really good one. I have a couple of really like my favorites. I really like the poem that I wrote, Hurricane Maria,
Okay.
and that's inspired by the hurricane that hit Puerto Rico. After the hurricane devastated the island, like I'm half Puerto Rican, so half of my family, my my mom's side of the family, she has family that still lives out there. And I remember my abuela like not being able to get a hold of her siblings out there, and just how crazy and devastating that storm was. So I wanted to write a poem about that. So I did, and it's one of my favorites. Another one of my favorites is Lorain, Ohio. It's about my city, which we'll dive into that more.
Oh yeah, for sure.
Um, I don't know. There's so many. Um, yeah, I don't know. Those are probably two of my favorites.
Yeah, and
Testimony is another one. That one was my deepest piece, but
oh yeah, and we're definitely going to get into that one.
yeah,
So
yeah.
to the listeners out there, just to put some context behind what we're talking about, we're going to be diving into a couple poems with this discussion because Angel actually put them out on her Spotify. So you can actually look up was it Angel the Flower on
Yep.
Spotify?
Angel the
And
Flower on Spotify.
yep, and then you can actually listen to the poems spoken by Angel herself and actually like get all the emotion, all like the raw, I don't know how you would put it, context of everything,
Yeah,
and understand it for what it is. So
yeah,
I'm glad you brought up Lorain, Ohio, because that is where I'm from too,
yeah.
and that's where we know each other, from
Mm-hmm.
Lakeview, and
Yeah,
I stand I stand by this today. Lakeview is probably the best school I've ever been to.
yeah. I agree.
Yeah, and it's because like the teachers there actually like
They
cared.
they cared. They went the extra mile. It was people from all walks of life. Lorain, Ohio. My city is a trap. It's a trap, they say. Prolonged nights and wasted days. A city full of broken hearts. A city of fallen dreams. A city full of broke down plans. A city of torn up schemes. They look at my city with disgust in their eyes. My city of minority, hungry and high. They look at my city and say,
When you wrote your poem Lorain, Ohio, you kind of captured a lot of different emotions and sentiments about our city. You mentioned how you speak of Lorain, Ohio in a beautiful context, like this is where I'm from, and you can't say nothing about it type of thing, right?
mm-hmm.
But also at the same time, you kind of take a position where it's like, yeah, but there are things wrong with our city. Like I think the line that really stands out is at the end of the poem. I know we're kind of going like all over the place with this, but like at the end of the poem, you said it's a city of broken dreams. Like, what
Mm-hmm.
did you mean by that?
My city of love. My city where your background didn't match your race. My city where a name can match a face. My city by the lake. My city by the mill. My city of hungry. My city of ill. My city a saint. My city a king. My city built on broken dreams. With that line, what I kind of was referring to, what I was trying to get at was that I also said in that poem that Lorain, Ohio is a trap. it's a trap, they say.
Mm.
And that kind of goes with it's a city of broken dreams, because I feel like in Lorain, Ohio, people kind of accept like where they're at. Just seeing some things that they would go through, I'm like, you don't have to go through that. Like, you can get out, you know?
What do you
And
think some of those things are?
like depression,
Oh, okay.
like just the way people treat each other. Um, I guess what I'm referring to as well is like drugs. Um,
Oh, okay.
yeah. Just different things that, I mean, it's different for everybody. Everybody struggles with different things. But just some things that I've noticed from people I'm close with, myself as well, things that I've struggled with, like.
So I think, what I kind of gathered from all of that is like, people, at least from my own perspective, I guess people in this city, we kind of, you're right, become complacent about what our situation is. I remember being a kid, like, and being told, yeah, like your goal is to get out of this city because once you're past a certain age, you're going to be stuck here forever. And if you look at people around you, like a lot of people are still here, right? And
Mhm.
then getting older with age and stuff like that, I matured to the thought that's like, well, it doesn't really matter where you live; it matters what you're doing. And I feel like a lot of people still carry around this stigma here in Lorraine about what it means to be here as a negative thing, you know?
Yeah. 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 I think that when we're young, we're taught to dream huge, to have dreams that reach the stars. But when we're older, we don't see many people leaving the city. We don't see many people in the city accomplishing those dreams that they set for themselves, those goals that they set for themselves, and becoming complacent. I think that's kind of what I was referring to as well, falling into traps of like I said, like depression or drugs or other alternatives, and just giving up on their goals or their dreams or who they want to be, you know? My abuela would tell me stories about how when her and my abuelo first moved to Lorraine and how many job opportunities were here and how amazing the city was. There was the steel mill, there was the Ford factory, there was South Lorraine was little Puerto Rico. It was open to so many like Hispanics and um minorities, not only Puerto Ricans, there was more, but like I remember even learning in one of my classes that Lorraine has the highest percentage of Puerto Ricans in all of Ohio. Um, and it was just booming with so much to offer. Downtown Lorraine had so much to offer. There are so many people here. And she would even tell me like it was so different, you know? And now like
Mhm.
when she would tell me those stories about when she first moved to Lorraine, I just saw Lorraine in such a beautiful light, you know, and like now I just feel like everybody kind of downs it, you know?
Yeah.
Like,
And
and
it's not like a lot of those sentiments went away too, you know? I mean,
no, it's not. Mm.
and I mean, if you even look downtown, like things are looking up, like,
Mm-hmm.
people are coming in and renovating and it's not just like big businesses. That's not happening. Like these are all like smaller businesses, local, like people coming together and actually doing something,
Yeah.
like the festivals are lively. People are actually
Yeah.
like getting engaged with the city. And that's what I like to see. Like, that's what I've
Right.
always wanted to see.
Yeah.
And so kind of, going back to the whole poem, how do you think, like, what do you do to kind of take people's sentiments about the city, right, and translate it into your poetry? Like, what does that process look like for you?
I I kind of try to view it through my own lens, but I don't know, I listen to the stories people tell me, to the words people tell me, to how I see people talk about Lorraine or how I see people talk about the people in Lorraine on social media too. I just kind of take it all in. You know, I don't ever like ask anybody. I'm more of an observer, you know.
Oh, okay, that makes
Yeah.
sense.
Yeah. So I'll kind of use a little bit of everything, especially the people I'm closest with, or even now social media is a huge platform. So when I'm on social media, you know, you see little tweets or statuses or posts about Lorraine every once in a while, or people post about everything, but yeah, I kind of just take it in. And when I wrote that poem, it was like a while ago, maybe like 7 years ago. It was a while ago.
You wrote
I,
Lorain, Ohio 7 years ago?
yeah, I
Oh,
wrote that
wow.
while, yeah, that was a pretty old poem. And I just remember feeling like very prideful because I was hearing so many negative things about Lorain, Ohio at that time that I wanted to create like a, a good image of Lorain, Ohio and portray it for what it is, you know? People like to down things, and I think there's two different lenses you can look out of, you
And what do
know?
you think like we need to do? Like I guess as like citizens of Lorain, Ohio, like, but like what do you think we all need to do to kind of, uplift our community, right? Like we're
Yeah,
talking
of
about
course.
community. We
Yeah,
love the people
community.
around us.
Yeah,
Like what do we need to do?
I think as a community, we definitely need to support each other. I think everybody's so negative, especially nobody wants to see anybody doing better than them. Maybe not nobody, but a lot of people. And I think that whole mindset needs to change. It's not a competition, it's not a contest. We just need to help each other. That's how we make our city better. That's how we're stronger. We need to build a community. We need to host events. We need to support each other's dreams. We need to go after our own dreams, you know? And we just need to be positive. I think I think the biggest thing is that support.
Yeah, and I'm with that too. And I can say from kind of getting back into like creation and stuff like with this podcast and like a couple other things too, like it doesn't work if people don't support you. It
Yeah.
doesn't work if like people look at you for what your identity is, but also where you come from. I would admit
Right.
that like part of the reason why like I want you on this show to do this
Mhm.
episode is because we're from the same city,
Yeah.
right? I
Hmm.
know something that I recognize here is that the Lorraine has some of the best artists like in the state, maybe even the
I
country,
agree.
right?
I agree.
And it's because like I- I'm gonna sound cynical when I say this, but art comes from pain. You
Oh,
know, a
amen.
lot of
Mhm.
a lot of the best art comes from a place of pain, whether it be a personal experience, trauma, or seeing somebody else go through something. You mentioned earlier on today about how Lorraine can be a trap for like depression.
Right.
I go through depression. I'm diagnosed with mild depression. I'm not afraid to admit that. But
Yeah.
a big part of that is because there were some things that I had to go through, right? That I had to kind of figure out. Um, but that doesn't mean that I have to be the only one to do that. And I kind of get that vibe from you,
Yeah.
with this poetry. Like, is that kind of like what you're trying to do with your artwork? Like,
Yes, that's exactly what I'm trying to do. Um, I think for me, growing up, my name's Angel, as mentioned earlier. Well, my name's Angelica, but everyone calls me Angel. And having that name itself is like such a huge pressure on your shoulders because everybody expects you to be an angel. Everybody expects you to be perfect. Everyone expects you to be this amazing person. And I mean, I think of myself in that light that I'm amazing, but I'm not perfect. I go through things just like everybody else. But I always felt like I had to keep that smile. Um, Poetry was my way, or is my way, I should say, of venting, of it's my outlet, my way of releasing my emotions, my inner feelings, what I truly feel inside, beneath that smile, behind that smile. So just the things that I've been through, the things that you wouldn't know just by looking at me or hearing my name or, oh, that's Angel, you know? It's deeper than that. And poetry is my outlet and my way of expressing the things that I go through because everyone goes through things.
and I'll admit, listening to some of your poetry too, like, of course, I'm not walking in your shoes. Like, your experience is only your experience, and it's nobody
Mhm.
else's experience, right? But
Right.
that's why the word relatable exists, and
Hmm.
because there are certain things, that you say in your poems that are very relatable. When you said, Lorraine, a city of broken dreams, I know you didn't mean it in the context of like, oh, well, this place sucks. Like, don't ever come
Yeah.
here or else your dreams are go to shit. Like, no, that's not like that. I know that's not what
No.
you meant. It was more so to communicate, like, people here believe that to be it, but it's not
Yeah.
that.
Yeah.
And I think that's why I really admire what you're doing, because
Thank
you're putting in the work to kind of turn over that stone. You know what I'm saying? And to
you.
kind of redefine, what it means to be from Lorraine, but actually not even just be from Lorraine, but to be a creator from Lorraine,
Right, right, right. And I hope, like, with my poetry, like, those who listen or those who read it, like, I hope that they see that, and I hope they see that they're not alone. There's so many there's so many talented people, so many creative people, much oh man, I'm just at a loss for words today. So much what's the word?
You're saying,
Potential. So
yeah,
much
there it is.
potential in this city, but like we were talking about earlier, just people being so complacent and just so content with where they're at and just they settle, and just, well,
Well, let me
nobody
run
else
this
can do it.
idea. I kind of want to, like, not. I want to. Yeah, I do. I do kind of want to push back on that idea, though, a little bit, just because I think I think it might be a little bit easy to look at somebody and say, well, you're not doing anything about the situation that you're in, And I'm speaking from my own perspective. I'm not trying to like clash, but let me just explain what I'm saying. Like,
Yes, go
say for
ahead.
example, we have an opioid crisis in Ohio. There's so many people that are on drugs, right, that are addicted, and you can't just tell somebody who is physically addicted to drugs, right, to just stop, because they can literally kill themselves. Like, their brain is dependent on that chemical, or
Mhm,
those chemical reactions that are going on in their head. So obviously there was a chain reaction that led up to that point, in which
mhm,
that they can't just unravel within a split decision. Yeah, it took a split decision to try a drug once, but then there are a lot of other things that we can't control, to just stop it. Now, the reason why I use that example is because things exist within a system, at least in my head. So, kind of bringing it back, like how a drug addict can be systematically given drugs because their conditions heighten their chances to actually use the drug. I think about, let's use something a little bit more innocent, the kids,
mhm,
right? So we were just talking about how kids, here have all this potential to do whatever they want. And I believe that Lorraine offers a lot of artistic outlets.
for
So
sure.
you work with kids, right?
Mhm.
And you're
Yeah.
studying education and doing all these great things. A big concern of mine, being from here, that I feel like a person like you can answer. I don't want to put pressure on your shoulders. I'm sorry, with this question, but, like, what do we tell the kids? You can create. You
Yeah.
can do this. But how do we actually get somebody to believe that? You know what I'm saying?
I work at the Boys and Girls Club. One thing I constantly tell the kids, like every lesson I do, um, I tell them, you are the future world changers. It starts with you. Like, I'm telling you guys this stuff. I'm telling you guys this stuff. I'm teaching you this, but it starts with you. You are the future generation. I try to expose them to a lot of things, and just sometimes it clicks for them. Sometimes it takes a while. Sometimes it takes the right person. I think with children and with people, they need to explore, they need to find things themselves. And as teachers, as mentors, as just people of the community, ways that we can kind of help them and lead them into the light is just by sharing our own experiences, by encouraging them, constantly encouraging them, even when they make mistakes, even when I'm not sure about this, and let them try new things. And just when they do something, like, I have a student right now who's an amazing, amazing artist. One way, I'm not the best at drawing, but I think he's so amazing. One way I kind of supported him was by getting him a sketchbook. I bought him a sketchbook and I told him, like, use this. I exposed him to different Instagrams, like, that I followed, that were amazing artists. And it was funny because he created his own Instagram, and he kind of the Instagram I showed him was like something something draws, and he made his something something draws, but with his name. So he loved that artist. It inspired him, and he mirrors, not copies, but like take some ideas from that artist that I showed him into his own drawing. And that really encouraged him to draw more. And I remind him all the time that he's amazing. I think children need that. I think people need that. I think people need to be supported, to make something. And like I was saying, in Lorain, Ohio, it's a beautiful city. I'm going to end on a lighter note, but we don't see enough support. We don't see enough encouragement and motivation and just community within our community.
Yeah, and I'm with that too.
Yeah, I do want to say this because I don't want to be. The poem is not negative. I'm just pointing out what I see. There are so many talented people. There are people pursuing their dreams in Lorain, Ohio. There are people that are doing things, making moves, making things happen. I see it all the time. But I think what we need to do better is support each other.
Like, that's something that I've been trying to do better too.
Yeah.
That like actually like supporting local talent in terms of, what I'm doing for my own projects. Like, I know that there's like fashion designers, right, that make their own clothes and they're from here, and filmmakers, photographers, and all these different, entrepreneurs, creative entrepreneurs that are doing great things, but that are from here.
Right.
And so if we support each other, we put ourselves on the map. We don't really need anyone else to do it, although it would be nice.
Yeah.
And so, yeah, and I didn't want to like, make it seem like that the poem was negative, but
no.
But also like,
but it shows like how people portray it as well, and I think even I find myself falling into that view sometimes because it's so hard. It's so easy when a lot of people around you think that way, it's so easy to fall into that way of thinking about the city as well. We need to be more open-minded and more supportive of each other and not fall into Lorain sucks, there's nothing here. There is a lot here. It is so easy to. So that poem was it incorporated some of that, but also incorporated the fact that there's so much potential here. It's not like Lorain, Ohio is a great place to be. It's what made me, it's what made you,
Yeah, for sure. And all the experiences that came with it, all the great friends that I've made, like even to this day, my two best friends are from here. And it's not like, or
Mine
I had a friend out in Cleveland and I had a friend out in Columbus or whatever, right? Like anyone really friends out there, when they're children, that end up being their best friends because I see them all the time. I see, those two best friends all the time. And it's because we share like similar experiences. Like I can even just reminisce, and I'm glad we're going down this road now because now we can talk about like the greatest things about Lorain that I can remember is Skate World.
And yes, I love Skate World. Oh
I remember like when we were kids, I used to go out to Skate World all the time, and that was like the best thing. And of course, like Lakeview Park, the Palace Theater, like some of my greatest childhood memories were spent in Lorain. And while I love Cleveland so much, I do. Nothing will ever replace home in terms of the memories that you have. And even if you have an overall negative experience, there are always going to be some of those positive experiences too that I can go back to.
It's still, exactly. It still makes you part of who you are. I mean, not to mention the pier and the lake, like that's one of my favorite parts of Lorain, Ohio. And I even mentioned that like in the poem.
Over by the east side?
Yeah, the east side, even on the west side, Lakeview Beach. Lakeview.
Oh, okay. I know what you're talking about. Yeah. I just heard pier and I'm thinking like the marina.
Yeah, that too. On the east side and even like the like you said, Lakeview Park, but like the lake across the street and stuff. Like it's just so beautiful. You go there at sunset and you watch the sunset and you see the seagulls and it's just like, wow, this is home. Like I always feel so at peace, Yeah. I don't know. I don't know if it's because it's my home or what, but
it probably is. But still, it doesn't matter. It's your experience, and no one can actually take that away from you. Like no matter how many people come through our city and tries to say like, oh well, it's all right, I guess. Well, it's like it's all right to you because you didn't grow up here. I
Right.
grew up here, and that's why it's awesome. And so, it's a good thing, to be able to say that once you reach that state of mind. And it takes a while. Like a lot of people here are depressed. Yeah, it's true. And it's because a lot of things, happen in this city that aren't the best.
Yeah.
But it takes people like you and me. It takes people like you to do the work that you're doing to shed light on the positive, and also criticize the negative too. I mean, negativity isn't always a bad thing.
Mm-hmm.
But that's why I'm saying, like, that poem really stuck out to me because it really brings home that mission that I believe people should do, is to talk about what the problems are, but also the positives behind them too.
Yeah. Yep, I agree. And I also want to throw this in as well. Lorain, Ohio is home for us and we can relate to this poem, but I know around the world there's cities like this too. You may be from another city and read it and say, "Wow, that's just like the city I came from." Lorain is a small place. There are tons of small cities across the world, so I don't it makes me feel like looking back at it and saying like, this might not just be Lorain, Ohio. There may be people in different cities feeling the same exact way. It makes me kind of feel good, like we're not alone. This is something that needs to be addressed everywhere.
Yeah.
Kind of thing, like support. Like, can you just imagine? Maybe this is the hippie at heart in me, but like,
The hippie at heart.
just imagine how amazing the world would be if we all supported each other. If we didn't fall into these dark places and blamed it on the place that we're from, and the people around. If we just supported one another and each other's dreams and just believed in one another, believed in ourselves and the city that we're from and made moves to make things better, like, just imagine. It'd be like the
And
best world ever.
and on that note, I kind of want to go on to that second poem that we
Yeah.
were going to talk about, is Testimony.
Yeah.
And you talked a lot about how you needed to believe in yourself. I can
Mm-hmm.
say, listening to that poem, I cried. I did. Like, I'm not afraid to admit that, and
Mm-hmm. I cried
and
writing it, man.
oh well, I could only imagine.
Yeah.
But even going through at this point in my life, right, things are going very well, and I'm 24,
Mm-hmm.
and it took a lot of things to not go well at all, and years for that to happen, and I just had to keep on believing in myself. And so hearing you talk about what your own experiences are and eventually come to believe in yourself was extremely inspiring, and it was relatable too. So
Thank
can you kind of talk about what testimony means to you and
you.
what you hope people can get out of it?
Yeah, of course. Testimony, man, that was and is to date my deepest piece of work. Like I mentioned before, I literally bawled my eyes out writing it and reading it and even recording it. Um, it was so hard and yet so easy to write because emotions just flowed. They just flowed from me. And it was so hard because it was so painful. I'll never forget when I wrote Testimony because it was at the end of this spring semester. It was probably after midnight and I was finishing up notes and just out of nowhere, these strong emotions just hit me. I was listening to like the hip hop lo-fi music and
Yes.
yeah,
Yes. The perfect study jams with
perfect.
anime backgrounds. It
Yeah,
was
yes. And I love the ones
amazing.
that move.
Oh yeah. Yeah, like with the subtle movements and stuff. Like there was one with
Yes.
like a little hamster on the wheel and then like the rain falling and so yeah. No,
Mhm.
for sure.
I love the one where the girl's writing in her
Oh
room and like
yes.
it's like a cat
Yes.
in the
That's like
window.
the
I'm
most
just like,
notorious one.
yeah. I'm glad you know. Like,
Oh yeah. Oh yeah. I feel like anyone who's a college student and is hip to anime knows what the lo-fi hip hop beats are.
right, right. So it was one of those nights. Studying, I had my lo-fi hip hop on, and you know how those beats can get really sad. Well, it got
Oh
really sad.
yes. No,
It
I'm
got
glad you
really
brought that
sad.
up because people, I feel like they don't understand when I say the saddest songs have the least amount of lyrics.
Yes, they literally have no word, or sometimes it'll be like a couple words, and then instrumental, and then a couple words, and instrumental, the same couple words, instrumental, you know?
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. So that's the kind of night it was. And I just got so sad. I got so sad. My testimony was something that happened to me 2 years prior to the moment I wrote about it. Those emotions hit me so hard. I just started crying. I put away my notes. I kept the music on. I grabbed a piece of paper and I just started writing. I was writing I was writing my testimony, and I really believe that God moved through me at that moment because I just felt the need to share my story. I stayed up. It was like already after midnight. So I remember crying, bawling my eyes out to the point where I had a headache. I couldn't go to sleep. And I believe I couldn't go to sleep because God wanted me to share that testimony. So as soon as I finished writing it, because I wrote it on a piece of paper, it was like 4 sheets of paper. I typed it all out and I shared it on my poetry Instagram. I think I'll have to look up the time. It might have been 2 or 3 when I shared that poem, but I could not sleep. I could not rest until my testimony was shared. And that's truly what it was. That's why I got its name, testimony, because it is my testimony.
So before I go on to the next question, I do want to put the content warning out there just for any listeners and stuff, that may be sensitive to mental health issues and causes and trauma and all of that. I do want to be respectful of any listeners who may not want to kind of indulge themselves in this type of conversation. So I'll put the timestamps in the show notes on when it might be more acceptable for you to listen if you just want to skip over that. But I do want to put the content warning out there. So the next question I want to ask is, what is testimony about? Like, what are the, some of the details? Like, what is your testimony?
Testimony. When I tell you I thought there was no way out, I really did believe there was no way out. My demons spoon-fed me lies that tasted so bitter, yet so sweet. I never knew that having a huge heart could be such a dangerous thing. I would feel things so deeply on a level I thought no one would ever understand. Some truths were so hard to swallow, I'd choke. I would feel so intensely that I would be winded. Literally just breathing was hard to do. There were days I would feel like I was okay, like maybe the storm had passed. Then, out of nowhere, it would downpour. I would have to run to the nearest restroom to hide my tears from the ones I knew needed me the most. I needed to show up for them, fully, and I couldn't. I couldn't because I couldn't even show up for myself. I didn't feel like it would ever be okay. I lost myself. I watched my innocence, my passion for life, and everything I thought I knew about who I was crash, break, and blow away with the breeze. The people who loved me could see me changing, and I could see it broke their hearts. I prayed, faithfully, every night, but I didn't think I was being listened to. I even took the medicine prescribed from the expert to help me. I didn't feel it working. It was more than just falling in love with the wrong person. That's what they thought it was. That's what it's always portrayed to be. But it was so much bigger than that. There was a lot more they couldn't see because they couldn't feel things the way I could. Or maybe because they just didn't know about all the battles I faced in my head. See, when it all came crashing, it didn't hit me in waves. It hit me in storms. Level 5 hurricanes.
Testimony is about a period in time where I was struggling with depression. I think that's the biggest word I want to use, depression. I get like the umbrella term. I was struggling with my faith. I was struggling with losing myself, losing my innocence. I didn't know who I was. I had family issues going on within my family. I just got out of the most serious relationship, the only relationship I had ever been in. And that tore me apart. My first real heartbreak, my first real love, that kind of school issues. I literally, at that time, I flunked all my classes. There was a lot going on at work. There was things going on at work. I was promoted, but I had so much on my plate that I couldn't do what I was supposed to do. It was very stressful. I was at the lowest of the lows in my life. And the testimony is about when I tried to commit suicide. So that it talks about the moments that led me there. It talks about how it was just a normal day in those feelings for me, and how it just went downhill from there. How I decided I didn't want to do this anymore. And testimony also talks about how I got out of that how I regained my faith, how I was pulled out of that moment. And testimony, it gives the assurance that there's hope and that there's faith at the end of a really bad breakdown. The end when you hit rock bottom, that there is hope and there is faith. So it talks about the things that I struggled with, but again, on a lighter note, it does give the reassurance that there is hope, there is faith, that I could find a way through it, that you could find a way through it. Oh.
It is both a blessing and a curse to feel everything so deeply. We just don't give the curse the credit it's due. I would have given anything to feel less at that time. At that time, I was under a curse. A person who loves so passionately, cares so immensely, gives so fully, and dreams so beautifully can still be dangerous to themselves. It was more than a heartbreak. It was pressure. It was judgment. It was fear. It was failure. It was weakness. It was stress. It was neglect. It was not loving myself. I didn't hold on tight enough when the storm came and uprooted everything I knew, and I lost myself. It was all of this at once. I prayed for a miracle, and I received a second chance. So when I tell you that even when you believe there is no escape, even when you're sure there is no other way, and you're ready to accept it, there's light. There is hope. There is a way. I can't tell you the way, because our battles aren't the same. But I can tell you, you have a purpose, and it is not to get washed out by the storm. Keep faith and keep hope.
That whole walk is very serious, and because that introduces a lot of different complexities. I'm not a therapist, and I'm in no way qualified to be talking about like what causes suicidal tendencies and thoughts and stuff like that. But I think it's important to point out that by you sharing your testimony, right, and ending it on a note of there is hope, there is a side that's here that is a lot more blissful than when you currently are. Can you tell me a little bit about how you made it through those dark times? I mean, because in the poem you were using words like a level 5 hurricane, describing like how you felt in that moment. I mean, that is intense. So how did you work your way out of that?
Yeah, I don't think, I'm not gonna lie, I'm not gonna like sugarcoat things. I don't think I have like a straight, like clear cut answer to that question. Like, I don't think I could say this is what pulled me out. But at that moment, I just remember feeling at my lowest of lows. I was actually at the pier, um, a place that I went to write poetry, a place that I went to meditate. I was bawling my eyes out. The poem illustrates the different feelings, the different stages I went through before I took action. My family came. Somebody reached out to my family. My parents came. My friend came. My brothers came. They all got there. I was crying, and luckily they were there to stop me and save my life. Um, After that whole experience, though, I took time to reflect. Um, and I knew that it wasn't my time. God pulled me out of that storm for sure, with my family arriving, with everyone there, you know. And then I feel like after you went through that storm and you're reflecting on it, then you can really see, but no one can really speak those words, can tell how, what am I trying to say? Like, when you're in that moment, when you're at that low, it's hard to believe anything else, especially when you're by yourself making these decisions. Because I believe that your own mind can be your biggest nightmare, your worst enemy. The thoughts that go through your mind, you are your own worst critic.
Yeah.
And because I was alone and because I was letting my thoughts control me, I saw no way out. Stepping back, getting through that moment and looking at the bigger picture, looking at the things that I went through, looking at the people that cared about me, looking at all I've done and all I've accomplished with my life, and even reflecting on my dreams and things that I still wanted to do, like, that's kind of what pulled me out.
Yeah.
But getting through the storm itself, I truly think it was a miracle from God, because if my family wasn't there, I probably would not be here today. To be honest, after that moment, reflecting, getting through that process, and like I said, reflecting on all those things made me want to be alive, made me want to be here, made me realize, no, this is not a good decision. Once you make this decision, you can't take it back. That's not what I wanted to do, you know? And then from that point, after that reflection, after that whole hitting rock bottom, after that time, I worked on loving myself more. I worked on seeing what I wanted and seeing who I was, not through the lens of others, not through my mistakes, not through all this stuff, but for who I truly was, for my heart, you know?
Yeah.
So it was definitely a process from there. It didn't happen overnight. I was still depressed after that. Before that whole process, I went to the doctor because I had depression. You know, I was doing my mom made me go to the doctor because she was like, this is not you. This is not Angel. You're not my girl. You're not my nana. So yeah, the people around you can tell. You can even tell. I knew I was depressed. I didn't want to admit it. That's another poem, another one of my favorites. Now that I think about it, The $1,000,000 Man is my favorites, and that talks about depression as well.
I think it's important to point out that I think it's important to sorry to cut you off, but I think it's important to point out, and I want to let you know this is that whatever you were going through is not your fault. And I think that a lot of us who suffer from depression or depressive episodes, or diagnosed with these issues, is a lot of us like to think that it is our fault. That whatever we're feeling, the anguish that we're feeling, that we're confused by, it's like, why is this happening? Like, like you'll be happy one day, and then 5 minutes later your brain's like, nope, that's gone.
Yeah.
Like, the memes that are put out there about depression are actually, like, really funny, because
Yes.
it comes from like I said, art comes from a place of pain. Comedy to me
Yeah.
is art, and so
Yes.
it just works. But the
Mm-hmm.
thing is that it's not your fault, and that's why I want to share that with you, in a supportive way, whether you believe that or not. I'm not saying that you're saying it's your fault, but I just want to reiterate, just to kind of validate your experience, that it's not your fault. You're here because you deserve to be. Everyone deserves to be. No one deserves to fall into this into the worst of circumstances. You see what I'm saying?
Right. Right.
And I think it's important to follow those steps that you went through, like seeing a
Yeah.
medical professional,
Hmm.
seeing a professional about it, but also practicing self-love and all
Yeah.
these different things, because we need that as people,
Hmm. I think the first step, and I want to throw this out there because I want listeners to know as well, is admitting it to yourself. That was the hardest thing for me because I'm Angel. That was my mindset in my head. Like, I'm Angel. I'm this happy girl. Like, people look up to me. I have to put on this smile. I have, like, that. I kind of just put aside my sickness, and that can be so bad. That can be so damaging. I think the first step is realizing you have a sickness, realizing you're not okay. In that poem I was telling you, The $1,000,000 Man, the last couple lines goes, he calls himself depression, although when asked, I always deny. How can a happy girl like me be so acquainted with this guy? So I think we need to take a step back from sometimes even how we see ourselves. We have to really
Mm-hmm.
truly look at our heart, our mind, what we're going through. Is it healthy? Because I was pretending I was good. I was putting on a smile. Some days I wasn't, but I tried to put on a smile, but that didn't mean I was okay. That didn't mean I was healthy. That didn't mean I was happy. And I think that's the first step. So for the listeners out there, I think you need to take that step to really look at yourself, and not just look at yourself in the mirror, like look at yourself. Are you okay? Are you happy? What's bothering you? Because social pressures, what people say you are, what people think you are, even sometimes we can take those things and make them who we are because we start to believe. We need to really learn ourselves and know, hey, this is not okay. This is not me. And know that there is a way out of things. But the first step is admitting it, acknowledging it. And I've come so far because there are so many times I've denied it. There are so many times I can't be depressed. I can't, this is not, like, I'll get through this.
Right.
And then that denial kind of ate me alive at the end. Because when it all hit me, like you were saying, I described it as a level 4 hurricane. It came out of nowhere, like hurricanes. They come out of nowhere, boom. Like, I was feeling sad, but all these emotions hit me so hard because I didn't take the time to acknowledge them. So I think that's what I'm trying to put out there. That's kind of the advice and something I really want to say because I think it's so important. I think it's the first step. Before you can start loving yourself, before you can start the healing process, before you can start seeking help, is acceptance. It's going to be okay. You need to admit things to yourself. You need to not deny things. You need to get out of that denial and say, I need to see help. I need to look at the big picture. I need to see what's going on, Even before you can seek help, you have to know what's going on with you first. Just wanted to throw that out there.
I do want to cap this off by saying that, like, if you feel, and this is for the listeners, if you feel like you're going, through something, having any suicidal tendencies or thoughts, or know somebody that's going through it, don't be afraid to tell somebody or to talk to somebody about it. But especially, please, 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 listeners, do not be afraid to go see a medical professional, a psychiatrist, a psychologist, whatever you want to call it. There are resources available. And, I wouldn't have known this because, I'm insured, right? And so I didn't have to worry about, receiving psychological help when it comes to, my mental cognitive differences. But like here in Lorraine, there are a lot of folks who, don't have insurance and have a lot of mental issues and cognitive differences that they have to navigate through. That someone told me that the Nord Center is always welcoming people with open arms. If they don't have insurance, don't worry about it. Come on in. We'll get you shaped up and squared away. And I think that's something that I really admire about Lorraine, is that we have a strong focus on mental health. There are several resources available here in this city, and I hope that listeners that are from Lorraine or around Lorraine can utilize it to their advantage to really seek the help and see the light at the end of the tunnel. I think it's important to
Yeah.
point it out.
Yeah, I want to throw out there too, since you kind of touched on it as well, like there is a stigma. Men don't want to seek mental health because they're too macho or too tough, or because men can't have feelings. That is so not true. You need to take care of yourself. You need to reach out. There are people that are trained that can help you, that can save your life. You need, and there's not all men are like this, but I'm just saying, because I know men that struggle with things, but they don't want to admit that, because of the I'm too tough. I have to be tough. I have to be strong. No,
Yep.
you don't. You are human. We are all human things,
Right.
Even in the
And I can speak to that too, because I'm a man, and I've struggled with that too. I mean, just the way that I was conditioned. Like, I'm expected to make it out through the toughest of scenarios, right? And because I'm a man, and eventually I'm going to be the man of the house and the bread and the whatever you call it, the breadwinner or something. But but and people usually look down upon like mental health issues as something that, like, oh, well, you just get over it. Are you depressed? Are you sad? Oh, get over it. Get over it. Get over it. Get over it. It's like, I hate the words "get over it." Like, it's actually triggering to me. Like, I think I low key just triggered myself, and it's because people don't get it. They don't get it. This whole thing of like tough love. I'll put quotes around that. It's because tough love comes from a place where someone else thinks that they see things a lot more simply than you. I think that's something, comes from like a perspective of someone who has ADHD, where my mind is like always in 1,000 places at the same time. And so when I try to explain something and someone looks at me crazy, it's like, all right, well, I'm sorry, I gotta slow myself down. But at the same time, try to work with me here, man. Like, so to the men out there, and I'm glad you brought this up. To the men out there, screw all that. Seriously, like none of that matters. None of that matters. Whatever dudes are telling you, like, oh, stop being depressed, bruh. Oh, you're not gonna kill yourself, bruh. Oh, like, go ahead and take this heroin, you'll feel better. Or go ahead, take this joint, you'll feel better. Like, actually, you know what? I'm gonna take that back, because the whole marijuana situation, like, conversation is something different. But anyways, you know what I'm saying? Drugs, like, that's how people fall into different things. Like, screw all that. Those people ain't there for you. They're not. Because at the end of the day, they're not actually trying to align themselves with you. As men, we need to acknowledge that we're screwed up. The way that we're raised screws us up. And we can screw up a lot of people around us by the decisions that we make, because we need to live up to this manliness. And unfortunately, a lot of this links back to mental health. And so, I mean, if I can make the decision, right? And if I can make the decision, graduate from college, make it out through the toughest scenarios, in terms of like trying to make it through school, and starting a podcast, get myself a job, and do all these different things, there's no reason that you shouldn't feel like you can too, especially because that these resources are available in our city. Yeah, I don't know. That was kind of like a long monologue. Sorry if I like took that over.
No, you were preaching. I was all for that, and I think that needed to be said, and it needed to be said from you. You are a man. You can speak. I can say these things, but I think you saying it just, made it a little better.
I'm just trying to kill this machismo, man, because like I became consciousness of this whole like machista thing. Like, so listeners who don't speak Spanish, machismo is like what people call masculinity. And so and within the like Latinx context, it's very toxic, like really toxic, like really, really toxic, in terms of like, things that you see in the movies, like, oh, you like this girl, oh, I like this girl too, oh, well, we got to go outside and we got to fight, like like stupid stuff like that. But then it manifests as you get older, and it becomes parts of your decisions, right? And so then you become overly aggressive. We hurt women a lot, in terms of like, in relationships where it's like you won't even listen to your partner, or you won't, in some cases, like,
trying to live up to this macho macho,
Exactly. But then like
macho
into the
man.
worst, yeah, like into like the worst scenarios where
Worst
like
way.
women are dying to machismo. You see what I'm
And you
saying?
lose yourself. You lose yourself in that
Yes.
too. You no longer become you because you become kind of a monster. Like, I'm sorry to say it, but I mean, you become without feeling, without,
Yep.
without your own heart. You lose yourself when you try to maintain this image, try to maintain this lifestyle. Yeah, I definitely agree. And I think I don't want to be biased too, because I know women that are like that as well, trying to maintain this tough, like, I don't need you, I don't need anybody type of
Yeah.
mentality. Um so yeah, if you're going through things, there are people that are trained to help you. There are You are here on purpose. That's what I want to say. You are here on purpose. You will get through it. Yeah, definitely seek the help, seek the assistance, seek what you need, you know?
Yeah. And another thing too, it's like, it kind of goes back to, all these tough conversations really make me think that we are incredibly blessed to live in this city, in Lorraine.
Mm-hmm.
And the biggest example that I think of, and you'll see where I'm going with this, is LCCC.
Yeah.
And you know, LCCC offers a diversity scholarship where you can go to school in the county, right, and get yourself a scholarship for falling under a certain demographic, right? You know how many community colleges outside of Ohio that don't offer anything like that, like at all? So if you look at like
Mm-hmm.
diverse communities like in California, I have cousins out there that went out to community college, but they didn't get any money and
Mm-hmm.
for just being Hispanic, right, or
Yeah.
Latinx or anything like that. So on top of that, where I'm going with that is like having the Nord Center and having this all these different like organizations, right, that are
Resources.
focused, yeah, like resources, right, that are focused on mental health. That's why I say, when I was saying before, like there isn't any reason. I always like to be conscious of people's reasons. I don't like to dismiss that. But as a
Right.
man, you know, if we are really giving ourselves all this power to make all the decisions that we want for ourselves, we need to be able to make the decision to say that I deserve to be okay too.
Yes.
And
Yep.
so, yeah, I'm gonna leave it at that. And I just want to thank you for being so brave and coming out about your experiences, right, so that people can gain, lessons from that.
Yeah. Yeah, thank you. It took a lot. I'm still walking the path of self-love and still learning myself, and it's definitely a journey that I'm still journeying through. I'm
Yeah,
still going through, but yeah, yeah. I felt the need to share my story just to let people know, like, they're not alone. There's tons of people. I think everybody goes through things for sure, but if you can relate, just know you're not alone. And if you can't relate, just know you're not alone. Not everyone's story, not everyone's going to find the same way out, but there is hope. There is hope. Through that hope, through your journey, you can find a blessing. Like, through that, I knew I had to put that poetry book out there. I knew I had to share my stories, and I was nervous at first, I'm not going to lie, because a lot of my family bought my book, and I was like, oh my goodness, they're going to know everything. I talked about smoking marijuana, I talked about depression, I talked about suicide, I talked about loving myself, I talked about relationships, things that, I don't really tell, like, my family.
yeah,
um, but there's beauty in being vulnerable, and at the end of the day, I'm proud that I did it, because it helped make me who I am. And if I can share my story and at least reach out to one other person, and they can say, wow, that inspires me to share, or that inspires me to write, or that inspires me to seek help, I've done what I wanted to do, like,
yeah.
so yeah.
All right, so wrapping up the episode, I like to ask everyone this question, and if they have any shout outs and where we can follow you. So, if you could say one last thing to the world, before we sign off in this episode, what would you say and what would it be?
All right. If I could say one thing to the world, I know I'm going to sound repetitive because I probably said it a couple times during the podcast, but it's my favorite thing to say is that there is faith and there is hope. No matter what you're going through, don't give up. There is a way. So that's what I'll say. So my poetry account on Instagram is Angel the Flower Poems. No spaces, no capital letters. It is a private page, but I'll check it every so often. I'll just accept everybody, pretty much. So, my personal page is Angel the Flower. That one's public, so you can check out my public page, my personal account, just to keep updated with poetry, just to see how I'm doing. If you want to write me, you can write me, whatever. And then Twitter, I'm Angel the Flower on Twitter as well.
Awesome.
So
cool. All right, everyone. Well, thank you so much for sticking through this episode. We talked about a lot.
Yes,
and just kind of reiterating, in that content warning block is, if you ever feel like you're going through something, please don't hesitate to contact a professional. I can't stress that enough. But as Angel said multiple times, is that there is hope. Things do get better. People love you. No matter who's listening to this, someone out there loves you.
The world needs you. The world
and you need you. You need to believe in yourself.
Yes.
I had a thought today at work that if no one else believes in you, you believe in yourself, and you'll still accomplish great things. That's I've gotten to that point, and things are going really well.
Yes.
So
I've gotten to that point too, and I just want to say, we've both hit bad bottoms and rock bottom, and look at us now. We're getting on our feet. We're chasing our dreams. We're doing what we love. So if we can do it, you can too. You can too.
Amazing. All right, everyone. So you can listen to us on Apple, Spotify, Google, Stitcher, and I'm forgetting the rest. YouTube, Facebook, all of that. And Podbean. I think I actually got all of them this time. So yes, looking forward to seeing you next week on the next episode. And if you have any questions, don't hesitate to email me because I'm putting up a website soon. So you can email me at Carlos I can't talk today. You can email me at carlos@race2finish.live. And I'm always looking forward to any questions that you have. So take care, everyone. Take care of yourselves. Love yourself. I love you. We all love you. And have a great day. All right. Bye-bye now.